Hey guys, I'm Cecily Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Thor Ragnarok. So, just to preface, I've seen the first Thor movie, but I've not seen the sequel. And I believe this movie takes place 2 years after the second Avengers movie. So, I'm not completely caught up with all the Thor stuff, but for the most part, I'm okay, even though the movie starts off in a pretty confusing state where Thor is captured by what appears to be a fire demon. I don't know how that happened. I'm not sure which movie would have explained that away, but that's where we're at. And before I go further into the review, uh, if you do like this little recap spoiler review, then please feel free to go ahead and over to the link in the description. It'll lead you to my Patreon, and please feel free to donate to that if you enjoyed what you saw. So there's that. Anyways, yes, Thor is captured by this big demon in which he escapes via calling his hammer, even though his hands are captured, which he usually has his hand out. So that was a bit of a weird thing. So he manages to escape via teleportation. He's running from this fire dragon thing. So he meets up with this guy named, I believe his name is Scourge. He's like this bald dude. So, anyways, he's like a little angry, like Thor, that was just sort of happened to interrupt what this guy was doing, which he's like trying to hit on these ladies. So, anyways, he's like, meh, and he leaves. So Thor goes to see his father, or what he assumes to be his father, and he's watching this play between Thor and Loki, which I believe is some sort of recap of something. Again, I'm not entirely sure what it was, but so Thor thinks his father's gotten lazy, so he ends up throwing his hammer, making it come back, and then I think at some point he figured out that it was actually Loki all along. So the two of them, Thor and Loki, end up getting like teleported to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange and him have a sit down with Thor while Loki gets like sent into this other portal. And he eventually keeps falling through, like, I guess some sort of abyss or something. We don't get to see what it was. But they are eventually both sent into this portal where they go to Norway where their father actually is. And he's the one who mentions Ragnarok, which apparently is a sort of prophecy where the entire world of Asgard will fall. And then he vanishes into this gold dust. So the both of them see this green portal appear behind them, and they see Hela, the main villain of this movie. And I'm just gonna say it now. Thank goodness that Hela is a opposing villain in Marvel, because that is something I noticed that Marvel, at least recently, has been struggling with. So it's really great to see them have an opposing villain that just makes her authority known through her actions. So at least there's that. So, anyways, after Thor tries to throw his hammer, Hela just catches it in her hand and breaks it. And then Loki's like, oh, he's like calling out to Doctor Strange because apparently I guess he can still hear them. And he's like, pull us out or whatever. So he's pulling them through this portal, and then Hela is following through. And to be honest, I thought, oh, Doctor Strange could just like split open the portal. I don't know how it works, but magic, whatever. Anyways, meanwhile, Thor ends up like getting like sucked into like another area, ends up on another planet where he's separated from Loki for quite a bit here. Uh, so meanwhile, Thor is like on this planet of like trash, and he sees these guys with pretty terrible looking masks come out and try to attempt to capture him. Uh, and he's like trying to get out, and they like attempt to capture him. They kind of sort of do at that point. But then this like drunk lady, I'll just say is a, for now, I'll just say it out of the way. Spoiler alert: she's a Valkyrie. I don't know if they say her actual name, so I'll just call her Valkyrie for simplicity's sake. So Valkyrie starts off as this drunken girl's like, I want that guy. You get out of the way. And everyone's like, he's ours. We captured her first. Captured him first, I should say. And then she's like, okay. Like she pumps up her fist, points it at them, and it moves her ship into position. And then she shoots all of them down and takes Thor for herself. So she successfully captures Thor and brings him to a different location. And we learn more as we come back to Hela that she was the firstborn of the, I guess, Odin clan, I'll say. Anyways, and that she's like the goddess of death. There's a bit of exposition in this movie, which, is a little bit necessary for people who might not know this stuff. I certainly didn't know who this character was. So she's like fighting some guys to take over in Asgard. She fights them down. She's successful. She takes down a bunch of ships, and then she gets that guy at the beginning of the Scourge guy to join her. And then they cut back to Thor, and I believe they start playing the theme song from Willy Wonka, or at least I thought it was, like, as he's traveling through, like, this, like, weird thing in a chair. I don't remember what the song is called. It's like something about imagination. Anyways, we meet Jeff Goldblum, who plays the Grandmaster, but let's face it, he's essentially playing Jeff Goldblum, because at this point in time, he's become one of those actors that's just like, he does his thing, and it's like, oh, that's Jeff Goldblum, so whatever. So Loki is apparently free from that. He's there, he's just chilling and relaxing. Thor's like, trying to get Loki to free him, but he's like, nope, I don't know him. Or I do know him, but whatever. So, Thor is introduced to two more characters, Korg and Meek, and for those of you who don't know who those characters are, I actually do know, if you've seen the animated movie Planet Hulk. These two characters are from Planet Hulk. I don't know if they're going to actually do a live-action Planet Hulk. Some people are suggesting that this is the closest thing we're going to get to Planet Hulk, apparently. But we do get to meet these two characters from that, and they're here, so that's interesting to say the very least. So Korg mentions that he does, and he's like Korg, by the way, is this like rock-like creature, and Meek is like this robot-like thing. So Korg mentions he's like the warm-up for these battles and how this tournament sort of works or whatever, well, very briefly. Meanwhile, Hela is destroying the exposition ceiling, where she starts talking about how she was the original throne bearer, and how she was with Odin, and how they used to rule planets, and how Thor was then born, and then how things became kind of dull and boring, and then she goes to this flame and gives birth to these skeleton warriors and this super uber wolf. We cut back to Thor, who's looking at this weapon rack, and then he's like, oh, I missed my hammer. And then Korg makes this sex joke about the hammer. He's like, oh, you're so intimate with this hammer, or whatever. And, sex jokes about inanimate objects. Anyway, um, so the Valkyrie is there, and Thor's trying to talk with her, but she's like, nope. And Stanley makes this typical cameo where he's like this robot thing that cuts Thor's hair, and that's it. So the Grandmaster is there to pump up the crowd, and they're booing Thor. And then, of course, when Hulk comes out, everyone's a super fan of Hulk. Apparently, he's been there a while. The 2 years that I mentioned. So they start to fight, and it's probably one of the best parts of the film, the fight between Thor and Hulk. They're pretty evenly matched. Hulk starts off pretty strong, and then Thor starts fighting back. Uh, and Thor gets to this point where his eyes start to glow with this light. And the Grandmaster sees that he has the potential to potentially even beat the Hulk at this point. So the Grandmaster shuts all of it down and has Thor lose, even though he says that he won later on. So the Scourge guy that I mentioned is promoted to an executioner, while I don't remember his name, but he's like this black dude with the weird eyes that like used to control the portal. I don't remember his name from the first two movies. Like I said, I didn't even see the second movie. I'm not even sure he's in it, but he was in the first movie, but I don't remember his name. So I'll just call him the Eyes or something along those lines or whatever. Anyway, so Thor wakes up, and then he's like talking with Hulk, because Hulk is in the same room as him now, and they're talking about stuff and how they're trapped, or how he's trapped. So he uses the Eye Guy to see like what's going on in Asgard, and Thor is like trying to escape now, and everything's like, oh, failure, failure, failure. So he's talking about Hulk and about his anger, trying to get him back into Bruce Banner, but that doesn't work. The Valkyrie comes back, and she's like, oh, I'll listen to you until this drink is done. She finishes it super quick. But this allows Thor the opportunity to take the device that has this chip on it that was shocking him. He's able to break out into the ship that Hulk was in. So the Hulk follows Thor, and then they get this call from Black Widow, and then this is the cause of what makes Hulk turn back. And then he's like, "Oh, what's happened?" So, anyways, Loki and the Valkyrie are talking with the Grandmaster about getting Thor back, and whoever gets him back, like, gets a prize or something or other. So Loki and the Valkyrie start fighting, and then Loki essentially mind crushes her into having the memory of when the Valkyries fought Hela and lost, and how she was the last Valkyrie left. So Thor's trying to get Banner on his side, and he switches over and says, "Oh, I like you, Banner. I like you more than Hulk over there." And he did the same thing when he was Hulk. He's like, "Oh, I like the Hulk better." So, anyways, Thor's like, "Oh, let's call our group the Revengers," and then yeah, that whole bit happens. Then he like throws this bottle at Loki because he's like captured at that point, and he's like trying to make sure he's the real one. So anyways, Quark and the others are in the arena, or that side of the arena, I guess, are set free. So Quark is all about this whole resistance thing that he was talking about. So now he's like, yeah, resistance. So Thor and Loki start blowing into the base, where the main ships are. And they have this moment where Thor and Loki are trying to connect, and then it's a weird moment, but it's pretty nice. And then like Thor's like, "Oh, I knew you betrayed me. I'm catching on to your tricks." And then he's like shocking Loki with because he plants the device, one of the devices on him instead. So I don't know how, but Thor knows how to control ships. I guess. Whatever. I don't know how that time. I don't know how that came to be, but whatever. Anyway. So Banner and Thor end up on this ship, ends up being the Grandmaster's orgy ship. Yes, I said orgy ship because that's exactly what they say in the movie. I'm not trying to make that up. Um, but the Valkyrie takes out another ship as well, and she's trying to catch up, and then fights off these other ships that are chasing. Then Thor's like, "I'll help out." So they must head towards this portal, which is, for whatever reason, called the Devil's Anus. I don't know why, but whatever. So Cork saves Loki from an infinite shock because they're heading towards the ships as well. And then it sort of cuts back to Hela trying to bring someone forward. She's trying to get this weapon. I believe she's trying to make way to Earth to essentially take it over, but you know the people there aren't talking. The Asgardians aren't talking. So she's like, "I'll have Scourge, the Executioner, essentially kill this woman," and he hesitates long enough for them to move to the next thing. But no, it was someone else that like spoke up, and then I don't know if he like I forgot if the Scourge guy killed her or not, but Bella moves to like this door where there's a bunch of others hidden away, and then Thor comes back to Asgard, and he's making noise to bring Hela toward her. So then they like start a tease battle, like they head toward each other, and then it cuts to the Asgardians running and fleeing towards this bridge, the bridge that connects to Earth. And the wolf that I mentioned way earlier in this review is like, "I'm gonna get ya." So the wolf chases them back to the other side of the bridge, and then the skeleton warriors that I mentioned are on the other side of the bridge, so they're completely trapped on both sides. So Banner jumps down onto the bridge as Banner, and then that causes him to turn back into the Hulk. And he's going after the big bad super wolf. And Cork and Meek are there, and they're helping out the eye guy. Loki arrives as well, and he's like, "You missed me, didn't you?" He's super confident about that, and people are like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So anyways, during this battle between Thor and Hela, his left eye, much like his father, is taken out. And this huge lightning surge starts happening as he eventually like talks to his father, and then he mentions how the hammer. I'm trying to remember what the hammer was called, but you know, his hammer it was meant to contain his powers. So now Thor has unleashed super ultra mega lightning, and he unleashes on the undead skeleton warriors. Thor eventually meets up with Loki and the Valkyrie to stand up against Hela, and the two Thor and Loki start to try to like push back a little bit. Anyways, we cut back to we pan back to the ship where Scourge is on there, and then he like jumps out and he like takes out his guns and he starts to fight back for the Asgardians. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna switch sides," because this guy is like, I assume he's like one of those characters that's just, he wants to always be on the winning side, and that's more or less based on his actions in the movie. But then he's suddenly killed, so it was kind of silly, but whatever. So, anyways, we see that I think it was Loki that summoned the fire demon, the one we saw at the very beginning, and it like pops up and then starts attacking Hela as the rest of the characters are fleeing. So now the fire demon's like fighting against her, and she's like, "Oh goodness gracious!" But she's still going after it. Starts fighting it, and then she's like covered in this like super lava blast. Thor and Loki make it to the ship, and then the movie ends with him at the helm of the ship with all the Asgardians on the ship as well, and Korg and Meek and and Valkyrie and Loki all a part of the ship as well, heading deeper into some unknown place of space, and that is the end of Thor. Now, this is a 2-hour film, which, if there was an after credit sequence, I left immediately after, so I don't know if there. I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's a Marvel movie. I'm pretty sure there was some sort of setup into whatever's coming up next, but I didn't catch what it was. And as far as this movie is concerned, it's a pretty solid action movie with some comedy elements here and there. There were a few bits where I was like, the jokes didn't quite lift or quite land, if you will. They were just sort of there. I felt like it was built for a little bit of a younger audience. Some of the jokes, definitely. But the action was great. The fight was everything I expected it to be. And finally, we got to see a pretty interesting villain in opposition to Thor and Loki. Sort of now, I guess, sort of technically being a semi-good guy, or good enough, anyways. So there's that. So I'll give this movie a solid 7 out of 10. I enjoyed this movie. And yeah. But anyways, there does feel like there's something missing from this review besides, me talking about an extra credit sequence, but I'm not sure I know what that is. Maybe there's a certain challenge that's going to be coming up later on if you made it this far in the video, so there's going to be maybe something along those lines coming out sometime. But until then, if you enjoyed this pretty long review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And once again, feel free to head on over to that link in the description, the one that sends you over to my Patreon, and please feel free to donate. It will help a lot. And until next time, everyone, bye!